Pressurized tanks and neoprene suits. The water's cold, and it's deep, too. This is Wakulla Springs.
Well, this is probably one of the world's largest and deepest freshwater spring. It's a Class 1 spring, and it's about 90 to 100 feet deep at the surface of the spring here. Then it goes down to 120 feet under the ledge here at the lodge.
You're looking at one of the most experienced dive teams in the nation. Each member has a specialty. Each will need it. 300 plus feet down, almost a mile in.
You want everything in a situation like that, you want it to do 1.5 times what you've got planned. So in other words, go 1.5 times as deep as you think you're going to go. You need to burn 1.5 times as long as you think you need to burn. This is kind of a safety margin.
This is Wakulla Springs. This is the Woodville Karst Plain project, and what we're going to try to do is show you how we got to this point. This is a beautiful dive site, but it's 300 feet deep. What we're going to do is take a quick look inside the cave, and then we're going to go back, and piece by piece we're going to put together the gear it takes to do this type of dive. As you can see, everybody's having a good time, and it looks easy. This is the entrance to the cave. It's a massive entrance and absolutely beautiful. You can see the trees in the background, and this shot right here is from about 160 feet deep. This is the dive team coming in. As you see them go by, you notice they're riding tow-behind scooters. They're carrying several stage bottles, back-mounted doubles. See where everything's placed. Here's the dive team getting ready to go. They've just dropped their air bottle at 190 feet, and they're getting ready to go on gas into Wakulla Springs cave, into the A tunnel, along with a video team that's lighting up the cave. This is really quite a sight. It's an extremely difficult type of dive, but done right, it can be very easy. There's just a few basic rules that have to be followed in this kind of diving. You have to use the right gear. You have to do it right. You have to have the right attitude. They're basically all one thing. The best piece of equipment we have is ourselves. With that piece of equipment, we take care of the other pieces of equipment. These scooters are a fine example of an absolutely perfect piece of equipment adapted for this job. So we'll start with the very smallest things. Here's the dry suit. We'll get back to that later. That little thing is a spool. It's a safety spool. You don't need a great big reel or any convoluted reel. You need something that's very, very simple, something that's foolproof that you can't mess up. All that is a piece of line on a string. These are some gas analysis sheets. Every bottle is cataloged, serial numbered, and its contents are marked in a gas analysis sheet. That's how we keep track of where we are. This is the harness. And again, we're going to go put all this together again later, but we're going to pull it out and look at it first. It's a very simple harness. This harness is made from one piece of webbing only, except for the crotch strap, which is separate. You see where the knife is placed on the harness. It's just a line cutter that's serrated. You see how the crotch strap goes through the waist belt, and you'll see how the waist belt, the buckle, holds the light in place. You can see the backup lights are hung from the chest D-rings and are held in place, in this case, by a tank O-ring. And they're out of the way of the front of the diver. They're actually underneath the arms. This is a hip-mounted, side-mounted canister. This particular light is a Gavin light, a Gavin design light, similar to an American Underwater and several other types. But you see the buckle on the waist strap holds the canister in place. Anything you don't need, you don't put on your rig. If something can serve two purposes, then it should, as this buckle does. So the buckle just comes all the way around. The backup light, just a twist on. It's a 3-battery light. It has a bolt snap tied to it with cave line that's hooked to the D-ring and held in place, like I say, by either a little piece of bicycle inner tube or, in this case, a tank O-ring, because they're a little more durable. But you can see it's out of the way completely and doesn't interfere with the diver at all. This is a safety spool. Again, a simple piece of equipment, which is what you need in an emergency, is a simple piece of equipment. You can see the light is completely shielded by the arm and the shoulder that causes no drag whatsoever, and it doesn't add to the diver's profile either way. The cord should be enough length to reach the left hand outstretched. It can be held in that hand, or it can be switched around for scootering. In this case, for surveying, it's hung over the neck and illuminates the book clearly. It is the backup rake hangs around the neck and it comes from the left post. You should be able to reach down and pick it up with your mouth. It should be just that simple. The long hose is a big mystery to a lot of people. The long hose just hangs around the neck. It isn't going to choke you or anything else. You see, it'll come right out over your head. It's the simplest, cleanest way to do it. If the intermediate pressure of the regulator is set properly to the second stage, you won't have any problem with easy breathing. A good dive operation requires a decent gas setup. You've got to have all the proper gases. That was the back of the tanks. This is the back of the tanks. The other side was the front of the tanks. I use this little pony rig to hold on my argon bottle. Any way you do it seems to be fine. I just am paranoid about anything I can't remove myself. I hang it upside down so I can reach the valve. And on these OMS tanks, you really need to add weight to bring them to make them equal to 104s. And if you're using a neoprene dry suit, you probably have to use one of those weights with anything. The wings go on next. And of course then the back plate screws on top of that, holding that weight in place underneath. And here the inflator hose runs through a piece of bungee on the left shoulder strap, which is fixed in the same place as that left side D-ring. There's that line cutter again. This is just a clip marker. It's just an outrigger clip I use. I keep it right on the front of my strap for marking in a cave if I want to mark something. Here's the left post regulator. It has the inflator and it has the long hose on it. It has strain reliefs. You see those strain reliefs are extremely necessary. You don't want, if the hose vibrates, it'll wear the swedge out. This is basically a Hogarthian rig using DIN. There you see my little clip to clip off my long hose when I'm not breathing it, and that's tied on with cave line. With the DIN the outside port manifold is a little different than the old Hogarthian rig, so this is the way I do it. The hose is all crossed behind my neck so I can hear any flowing in the hose whatsoever. This goes down underneath the wing, comes around. The inflator hose I stick through little pieces of bicycle inner tube along the big hose down to the inflator, underneath all of which goes underneath that bungee cord to hold it down, so I can always find it. Now this would be pretty interesting if you have the position of that fixed over your shoulder, out of the way, and you have your dry suit inflator on your chest. Watch what happens. You're going to be able to operate both inflators from the same position. I set my dry suit on auto deflate so I can deflate with one hand or I can inflate with both. Now here's the left side post. This has the pressure gauge and the backup regulator. On a situation where you were diving nitrox, let's say, or air, and you're trying to inflate your dry suit without an argon bottle, you'd run the argon or the dry suit from that side as well, that regulator as well. The hoses need to be straight up and down. They need to have the strain reliefs on them. They need to be the right length so that there's no excess hose and so that you're not straining anything. The breathing hose and the inflator hose are both 24 inches. This pressure gauge is 26 inches, and the long hose, of course, is 7 feet. 9 feet is just too much. Now, with the wings underneath the high pressure hose, as you see, and the high pressure hose clipped off to the hip, you can reach down and grab it and look at it while scootering or with your light in your hand or any way you want to do it. It's always right there. It's out of the way. It's also not going to vibrate in the breeze. It's not going to cause any additional drag. This particular battery system is one that's auto plug-in. I always check my battery prior to doing a cave dive. If you need to have, you need to know what the resting voltage of your battery is charged, and you need to check that every time. It's well worth doing it. You don't want to get in the water with something that's not working. You want to do the same thing for your scooter batteries, which are those orange batteries you see laying there. I test it through the charging port. The other two plugs were the gold-plated connectors that plug the scooter in. But you can see, you can tell with lead-acid batteries if something is charged by the voltage. You can't do that with NiCads. With NiCads, you just have to know they're charged. And that's a whole different process, and that's done with a computerized charger. But and you test both batteries, too. You don't want to have one bad, one good. And because as soon as the bad one goes down, that's the end of the show. The other thing you always want to check is your backup lights. You want to check the bulb, make sure that thing's working. And you need, and we'll show you something here. You want to check the voltage of these batteries. You can check the whole stack at once. If it's faulty, you check them one by one. But the point is here, you want to match the voltage of the cells to the voltage of the light bulb itself. This is 4.5 volts registering 4.58. It's a 4.5 volt light bulb. You don't want to be running at 6 volts against a 4.5 volt light bulb, because what's going to happen is or a 4 volt bulb, you're going to blow it when you need it the most in an emergency. Now see that D-ring there? I've bent that in a vise so it sticks up a little bit and it's easy to clip things onto. I don't have to hunt it down. I can snap right off to it. You just stick it in a vise, tap it with a hammer, and bend it outward. This somewhat simulates the old U.S. divers D-rings. You can see the pressure gauge, the safety spool. I put the safety spool in my pocket usually, but most people hang it on the outside. If you put it in your pocket, you have to have it clipped off in your pocket. Now here's the light arrangement. This is a Bill Gavin light. The beauty of this light is it has no moving wires whatsoever, and he made mine short because I want the extra weight. I don't want it to have any buoyancy. I need all the weight I can get with a dry suit, the C4 Thinsulate, and the reason for that is if you do have any kind of a low on gas emergency, you're going to have a problem if you're not well weighted. Now this one, battery turns and fits into a slot in the bottom, and then the head is positioned properly and everything's ready to go. So I always brush everything off and clean the O-rings, make sure there's no dirt anywhere before I put the light or the scooter together. It's a good idea to have a strain relief on the cord of your light, and it's like I said before, it's a good idea to have the cord exactly matched to the length you need so you have no extra cord hanging down. If you start yanking and jerking the cord around as it catches things, it's going to break the wires inside and it's going to fail when you need it most. It's just like everything else in life. So this thing has to be maintained properly. Now the light is left clipped off right here until it's being used, and I tend to make a practice of clipping the light off and not letting it hang down. Here's a Lamar English miniature exploration reel, similar to Bill Gavin builds a big reel like this. But the idea of this reel, there's no external handles or things to be caught on things. It's easy to operate. It's mostly made for putting line out, not taking it in. But nonetheless, it's a nice, simple arrangement. Now, putting the gear on here, you see that the dry suit hose comes right up underneath, and it's going to fit right there where the inflator is, which means I can operate both inflators with one hand, which is important. And the thing about that light, the light has a Goodman handle so I can hold it in my left hand, but it also has a separate handle so I can hold it in my right hand on my thumb, and I can operate it completely. I can spin it around and flash with it and so on and so forth. So if I'm going down into the cave, or dropping down on a shipwreck, I can operate both inflators with my left hand and my light and my scooter with my right hand. It's extremely important that you have ease of operation of gear and no convolutions whatsoever, and that there's nothing unusual you have to do to operate the gear. You want to be, I can operate both inflators, clear my nose with one hand, operate my scooter and my light with the other hand, and that's what you've got to be able to do, because what happens when something else comes up? Now, here you can see the full hose arrangement. Now that's the extended to the left hand. Now watch, that's how you share air. Real tough, no problem. The only thing is, obviously, you don't want to have helmets and things like that on your head. It'll come right off. So this is extremely simple. Nothing on the front of the diver, nothing in the way. You can turn the light off right here. The switch is protected. The light is under your arm. It's protected, and nothing's going to hit it. The only problem with this is it weighs 90 pounds, not counting the argon bottle when it's full of. And here we go. Now watch where everything fits. We can check our air, we can inflate, we can get the backup regulator, we can get this regulator, we can share gas, we can turn the light on. Everything is out of the way. There's nothing on the front of the diver. There's nothing sticking up. If I hit the ceiling, I hit the roof, I'm not going to break the regulators off. I'm not going to break any hoses. There's nothing sticking out to catch in the current. There's nothing out of the way, nothing unnecessary, nothing I don't need, but I have every piece of safety equipment that I could possibly imagine. If I was wreck diving, I'd stick my lift bag on that back back D-ring, and it would be underneath the back of those tanks, completely out of the way, not causing any drag whatsoever. If I wanted to carry other identifying tools or EPIRB or anything else, it would go in the same position. Right, see, right where my left hand is where the EPIRB would go on the belt, and if I wanted to use a signal flare kit, it would go right down there as well, out of the way and underneath. The best thing to use on these dry suits is some kind of talc. It's not a good idea to put soap on them because it's going to ruin the neoprene. Also, you don't want to use any kind of silicone on here, because if you do have to change the seals, you're not going to be able to get them to adhere to the material again properly, and you got to glue them back on. That's our patch. It's a helium atom around a compass rose. That's our the manufacturer of the dry suit. This is an interesting zipper because it's a double-sided two-pull zipper. It pulls from both sides at once. This is a self-donning dry suit, which is the only kind I like to use. It's a tri-laminate suit. It's extremely comfortable. It's a Navy SEAL combat suit is basically what it is, and it's you can swim across the surface with this thing. It's got side pockets that you don't want the pockets in the front. They've got to be on the sides so they stay out of the drag, or they don't cause drag by getting in the flow. I carry a little stopper in my pocket in case I lose the balance chamber to the overtaker discharge. Things like this happen, especially to our friends. Now, this is the cube room. That's me over there on the far side. Rat and Bob McGuire Sr. are doing the video, and everybody else is on the lights. We've got most of the team in here at one time. It's pretty amazing. I think there's about 12 guys that are around this room. Like I say, the room's 200 feet in diameter and 160 feet high in the center, and then it tapers away to 260 depth on one side and about 280 on the other side, and then the cave drops away to 300 feet going either direction. But here you can get an idea of the enormity of this place. It's really incredible. This is what the dive they call numero uno. This is the #1 sneak dive in Florida. People go sneak this thing just to see this room. It's really quite spectacular. The only problem is it's a tough restriction. It's a tough entrance, and it's a beautiful place. And it's unfortunately gotten fairly beat up from the sneak diving traffic. But only in that one section. The rest of the cave is still pristine. This is that's a diver on the floor, seen from the ceiling. There's Bobby with cameras and lights, and his dad's up on the right. And this is pointing downstream. That's the downstream tunnel. This is really, quite a neat shot. This place is absolutely beautiful. You can see the layers if you go around this room, all the fossils, and you can tell, what was going on at different periods in the past by looking at the clay and rock layers and what they're composed of. It's really absolutely amazing. You can even see, at one depth, you can see where the possibility of all the dinosaurs going extinct is. You can see that layer. I forgot what it's called, the X something layer or whatever it is. It's feet deep on the floor. But here's going downstream, 200 feet deep on the ceiling. Now we're going to go upstream. This is what this Bill Gavin on the right. And this is interesting because Bill Gavin has to be looks like if you get back into it. This is what these scars way upstream Sullivan Sink looks like. It's what Cheryl Sink looks like if you go way upstream. It's what the Turner Sink looks like downstream. Wakulla looks like this. Project engineer and makes most of the equipment decisions for us. That's his line of work. He's an engineer for the Navy, designs rebreathers and other dive equipment. This is the Upstream Sally Ward. This is really spectacular. This is where all the blue, clear water is coming from. This thing drops down to 300 feet pretty quickly. This is sloping down at about a 45-degree angle. And this was pretty cool. Bill had not been in here since he put the line in, 10, 15 years ago on a sneak dive, swimming on air. And this is the first time he's seen it since then. And he still wanted to look in that hole, but that's him there. He was happy to get back, especially since we went upstream and on the first shot broke it open and started adding line. We've since added to where we found the way on upstream. We've added 3,000 feet to that. We've been toggling back and forth between Sally Ward, Indian Springs, Wakulla Springs, and the rest of Leon Sinks, trying to put the whole system together. This place is absolutely spectacular. Now we're at 300 feet, and look at this clay. Almost no one's ever been here. Look at this undisturbed layers of clay on the floors, never been touched. Look at the ceilings, no marks anywhere. It's absolutely beautiful. This is what caves are supposed to look like. Ginny Springs used to look just like this when you go through the cornflakes. Those are cornflakes there. That's what cornflakes are supposed to look like. Now they just look like breadcrumbs at Ginny Springs. But this is a really neat tunnel. Look at, you can see, well, when you're diving, you can see all kinds of fossils everywhere. It's absolutely beautiful blue water that shimmers back at you. That line right there has been in there since Bill Gavin put it in, whatever it was, 12 years ago. And you can see it hasn't even been stained. This water is so clean and so beautiful. A lot of the reason we're doing these dives is to keep things that way. We're trying to protect the area. We're trying to catalog and determine what areas the state should buy to prevent this kind of thing from being ruined. Because once it's ruined, obviously it's going to be difficult to reclaim. Here you can see the gear laid out. I'm carrying a video light. That's that thing hanging down, but you can see how the rest of the gear is supposed to ride. The whole body's got to be relaxed. Here's a really cool shot. This is taken by Barry Miller. That's me right there. I'm carrying stage bottles back for Jared and Casey to do a push dive. And this is a rock slot that goes straight up 100 feet almost. I'm going straight up. We're going wide open and just kind of feeling our way through here. You can see the bubbles rising along the wall. The trick here with the small NICAD scooters is the maneuverability. I can twist and turn in and out, not touch anything all the way through here, and maintain that rocket speed. It's way overkill for a dive like this because it's a 2-hour burn time scooter, but I can hold that hammer down and get incredible speed going in and out. It only took us 20 minutes to round trip this dive completely to the end of the line. Put down 2 stage bottles. I'm towing a scooter as well, towing a spare scooter. It took 20 minutes to round trip, put this stuff down, and get back out to deco. In fact, the bottom time was so short that we decoed out, got out of the water, went over to Indian, and did another dive with remaining gas. Here you can see I've got Jared's stage bottles on my left, and I'm towing that other scooter behind me. You can see how well it floats. These things are absolutely incredible.